Take a look at this FIFA World Cup African qualifying group. Notice something? The East African nation of Eritrea has withdrawn even before playing a single match. Why is that? Well, Eritrea has this problem of its players going AWOL during away matches. Recently, 10 members of the national team sought asylum in Botswana, refusing to return home due to fears of forced military conscription. This trend isn't new. Since 2007, at least 45 national team members have defected during international trips. These defections shed light on the harsh realities in Eritrea, where indefinite national service and severe human rights abuses are rampant. Today we'll explore why Eritrea is often called the North Korea of East Africa. So where is Eritrea? Eritrea is located in the Horn of Africa, bordered by Sudan to the west, Ethiopia to the south, and Djibouti to the southeast. To the northeast and east, it has an extensive 600-mile maritime route. The country features diverse landscapes, from arid coastal plains to central highlands rising over 2,000 meters, and western lowlands. The Central Highlands, part of the Ethiopian Plateau, are running north to south through Eritrea, including Mount Soira, the highest peak at 3,013 meters. To the north, these highlands transition into hills, while to the east they drop into the coastal plain and the barren Danical Plain with the Kobar Sink. On the west, the highlands descend into a savanna-covered plain that slopes towards Sudan. Off the coast, the Dahlak Archipelago in the Red Sea has over 100 small coral and reef-fringed islands, few of which are inhabited. The population is ethnically diverse. The Tigray, or Tigrinya, in the highlands make up about half the population and speak Tigrinya. The Tigray people inhabit the northern plateau and lowlands, speaking Tigray. Other groups include Bilan speakers, Arabic-speaking Rashida nomads, Afar nomads, Saho pastoralists, Beja pastoralists, and the Nilotic-speaking Kunama and Nara. Despite the abundance of rivers in the country, though, the central government has severely mismanaged the supply of water to its people. In 2017, only 71% of the population had access to safe drinking water, with significant disparities between urban, 95%, and rural, 59.7% areas. Urban areas face inadequate water supply and poor quality, exacerbated by rapid migration and the needs of the urban poor. By 2019, about 30% of Eritreans lacked improved sanitation, and open defecation remained common, especially in rural areas. These issues contribute to high rates of diarrhea, a leading cause of under-5 mortality, highlighting the severe impact of poor water management and sanitation on public health. Though Eritrea may be poor and corrupt, it is undeniably located on some very strategic real estate on the Red Sea. As a result, many empires have vied for control over the land, having been an Ottoman, then Egyptian, and then Italian colony from the late 19th century until World War II, after which it was annexed by Ethiopia in 1962. A long and brutal war for independence followed, led by the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF. After Eritrea's independence from Ethiopia in May 1991, a provisional government formed by the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF, took control. On May 19, 1993, following a national referendum, the Transitional Government of Eritrea was established, intended to rule for 4 years until a constitution was promulgated and a permanent government elected. The National Assembly, consisting of 90 members, elected Isaias Afwerki as Eritrea's first president in 1993. Afwerki consolidated power, becoming head of state, government, legislature, and the military, as well as chair of the renamed People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ, in 1994. This year has marked 31 years of President Isaias Afwerki's one-man rule over Eritrea. There have been no elections since the country's independence in 1993, and the president has not implemented the 1997 Constitution that guarantees civil rights and limits executive power. Since 2010, no legislature has convened. There is no free press or civil society to keep the executive in check. Impunity remains the norm, and due process rights are routinely ignored. The government continues its abusive, indefinite military and national conscription service, failing to limit its duration or stop abuses against conscripts, including children. This, as we mentioned earlier in the video, is why members of their football team run away when they have an opportunity to leave the country. From mid-2022 to early 2023, it conducted a new mass conscription drive targeting alleged draft evaders and punished the relatives of those who evaded conscription. Despite being a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council, Eritrea refused to cooperate with key UN and African Union rights mechanisms, including denying access to the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Eritrea and ignoring decisions by the African Commission on Human and Peoples' Rights. The government uses indefinite national and military service to control the population. Despite legal provisions limiting its duration to 18 months, this conscription, compulsory for all Eritreans aged 18 to 40, has often been indefinite since the border war with Ethiopia between 1998 and 2000, forcing many into service for years, sometimes decades. Releases from service occur arbitrarily. Alleged draft evaders are rounded up by police through raids known as GIFAs. From mid-2022 to early 2023, the government conducted an intensive forced recruitment campaign, including 50 to 60-year-old reservists. The government also punished the relatives of alleged draft evaders and deserters by evicting them from their homes, cutting off food rations, and arbitrarily detaining them. The conscription system has a devastating impact on children's education. Students at Warsaw Yekelo Secondary School in the Sawa military camp are often conscripted before finishing secondary school, compelling many to drop out. Conscripts have no say in the location or duration of their assignment after Sawa, and conscientious objection is prohibited. The UN has even documented significant numbers of school-age children being recruited during recent mass conscription drives. Mass roundups and prolonged arbitrary arrests and detentions without legal counsel, judicial review, or family visits, sometimes for decades, are widespread, targeting the government's perceived opponents. Detainees are held in horrific conditions in places like the notorious military-run Adia Beto prison. Many Eritreans have disappeared, including top government officials arrested in 2001 after questioning Isaias's leadership, and are held incommunicado or have died in detention. 16 journalists arrested that year remain missing. Siam Ali Abdu, daughter of a former information minister, has been held for 11 years since her arrest at age 15. Former finance minister and critic of the president, Berhane Abrehe, has been incommunicado since September 2018. It's no wonder then that Eritreans of all walks of life, not just their footballers, are trying to escape the country. In fact, the UN Refugee Agency reported 345,000 Eritrean refugees and asylum seekers in East Africa alone as of June, out of over 580,000 globally, often looking to flee military service. Eritreans who fled during the independence struggle or legally in the 1990s are usually welcomed back unless they oppose the regime. Those who left after 2002 due to atrocities by the current regime face arrest, torture, and forced conscription upon return. Eritreans involved in political activities who refuse to pay the 2% income tax or are eligible for military service are detained upon return, often leading to imprisonment and conscription. Many Eritreans in self-imposed exile fear conscription if they return. The government imposes severe restrictions on leaving the country, requiring exit visas, which are difficult to obtain. Punishments for illegal exit include imprisonment and fines, and returnees may face arbitrary detention and torture. Eritreans must pay a 2% diaspora tax and sign an apology letter to return without punishment, though this does not guarantee safety. Deserters and draft evaders face severe punishment, including detention and forced military service. Eritrea's lack of rule of law and human rights abuses make safe return uncertain, even for those who comply with government demands. Just like the war in Ukraine has been a godsend for the East Asian hermit state of North Korea, seeing its global isolation broken through new alliances with Russia, the East African hermit state of Eritrea is also set to deepen its ties with Russia through the construction of a Russian naval base on the Dahlak Islands in the Red Sea. These islands, strategically located between Eritrea and the coasts of Yemen and Saudi Arabia, have long been considered for this purpose. Under President Isaias Afwerki, Eritrea has maintained warm relations with Russia, which were solidified when Eritrea supported Russia's invasion of Ukraine at the UN, being the only African country to vote against the resolution condemning Russia's actions. President Afwerki's 2 trips to Moscow, including one during the Russia-Africa Summit in July 2023, further cemented these ties. Both leaders share a strong aversion to the United States and its hegemonic strategy, favoring instead a multipolar world with greater Russian influence through alliances. The idea of a Russian base in Eritrea has been floated since at least 2018, with confirmation in 2022 by the British Parliament that Russia had long pursued interests on the Red Sea. During a visit to Eritrea in January 2023, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed the potential of using Massawa's port and airport for logistical and transit purposes, reinforcing Russia's interest in the region. We love hearing your comments underneath our videos. Why don't you tell us your thoughts on the situation in Eritrea and whether this rogue state gets enough attention in the media? Do you think raising awareness over this country's oppressive regime could help to improve the country's human rights record?